down in the wrecking yard. I met my true love down in the wrecking yard. I met my true love called a wreck Chevrolet. Push I see it.
Hi, welcome to the third episode of The Wrecking Yard. Today, our guest is Bill Levin. Now, a lot of people know Bill Levin, but a lot of people know him from different ways. A lot of us around here know him from his early days of being a promoter, a manager of local bands, Jolt Cola distributor, all sorts of things. Nowadays, he's been called, I think Tommy Chong called him the Pope of Pot, or the Prince of Pot. I think he's been called the Grand Poobah of Pot. I knew Bill back when he was the Duke of Drink and the Crown Prince of Public Nudity. But he's really not like that anymore. He's a person who's really mellowed over the years. In some ways, I mean, he's still Bill. But in other ways, and we'll talk about it, he's mellowed a little bit through age. He's got like basically a small farm in a very urban area in there. He's got goats. He's got 2 new goats as of last night. Peacocks, chickens, ducks, cats, some birds right there between 2 houses. The goats, he just had a couple of new ones last night. Maybe I just mentioned that. He's very happy about that. So when I talked to him today, he was in a very good mood, but also a little tired. You won't notice the tired part because Bill has no problem spinning a yarn. The other thing about Bill, other than his tale-telling abilities, is that this is weird. He's one of the only people I've ever seen who can do this. But he can walk up to a total stranger, pretty much any walk of life, be it, a guy working on a pothole in the street or a police officer or a person behind the counter. And within 5 minutes, he makes that person feel as though, they've been friends forever. It's a weird talent, but Bill has buckets of it, absolute buckets of it. I've seen it time and time again. He'll walk up to someone, and a lot of times it's someone who will approach him with a little bit of trepidation. Bill's got the wild shock of white hair, very, very skinny. His recent discovery of bread making should take care of that. Bill he's somebody that people feel they can open up to. I've seen, tons of people just boom, right off the bat. That's who I have on the show today. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. We have a lot of history together. He has a lot of history before we met. And hopefully by the time it's done, you'll feel like you know Bill a little better. Thank you for tuning in. And remember, we take donations. We'll take it if you got it. All right, we're rolling. Bill, I just want to, right off the bat, mention that you just became a proud papa last night. 2?
Yeah, 2 baby goats.
2 baby goats, and they're doing good?
Yes, they're doing wonderful. Hi, Tony, I love you, and everybody who's listening. Hi, I love you. I hope you're all having a great day.
Oh, good. Well, so everyone pretty much who's listening to this probably knows who Bill is. But as we talk, I'm sure you'll find out things you didn't know before. But let's start at the beginning. Bill, you were originally from Indianapolis, right?
Yes.
And you were adopted, is that correct?
Yep.
And you always knew you were adopted, or did
No, I always knew.
Okay. And your dad did what now?
I owned Kip Brothers.
Right, which was a
toy wholesaler. Before Toys R Us, they were the wholesaler for the Midwest.
So did you hang out there a lot when you were little?
Oh yeah. I did. I used to polish a 4-floor slide that they sent merchandise down on from the 4th floor, the 3rd floor, the 2nd floor, down to shipping.
It was that big of a building, huh?
Oh yeah, it's a nightclub now, 240 South Meridian.
Well, because I went there once. You took me there once, and I only remember seeing the bottom floor.
Right.
And I think all I saw was mostly the little gewgaws like that the dentist would give you after.
The novelties.
Exactly.
Okay. Novelties were on the 1st floor. Housewares and toys were on the 2nd floor. 3rd, 4th, and 5th floor were the warehouse.
Right. So that sounds like it would have been a fun place to hang out if you were a kid.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, come on.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever slide down those slides yourself?
Oh, all the time. All the time. Well, that's why I was the one who got the job to polish it, because nobody else was crazy, crazy enough to actually do it.
So they're pretty big slides, like a whole floor long?
Oh, no, it was 4 floors long.
Oh, it was like one big slide.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It had a pitch, and it had a turn, and it went down all the way to shipping.
Wow. I would have loved that.
Yeah.
So, all right. And then the Jewish community wasn't really huge in Indianapolis back then, was it not?
No. It was very small.
Yeah. Now, did you encounter any sort of problems or setbacks because of that?
In Mooresville, in '78, I rented a building from a judge, and I opened up Dr. Feelgood's famous entertainment emporium across from Biff's. And this is when arcades were big and new and shiny before any home electronic devices were there,
right.
Before Nintendo. So we were making good bank, and the judge said, hey, this is Mooresville. Do not let anybody know you're Jewish. And I said, cool. I understand, I dig. And my mother, in all her wisdom, was so proud of her son that she put me on the Jewish Welfare Federation mailing list, which at the time was, a list that all the Jewish businesses bought and used. So I'm getting all this Jewish mail, and all of a sudden somebody found out I was Jewish. Our business dropped about 60% overnight. Over a period of 3 or 4 weeks, my clutch line got cut, my brake line got cut, my car got rammed, and finally the judge came downstairs and said, I love you, you're a good kid, everything's cool, but I don't want my family burned out, because he lived up on the second floor. Okay. And did have one kid come in and ask to see my tail. So we got out of Mooresville, needless to say, and proceeded to the bar business.
Right. Now, the bar business was just third base? Is that
Yep.
what we're talking about?
Third base.
Now, I think that was where I first met you. Because, I've known you, I would say, since 1979. If I met you at third base, which I'm pretty sure I did,
Yeah.
I was doing the door for...
The Future.
No, I never really hung out with them too much. It would have been Dave Fulton's, whatever Dave Fulton's.
Joint Chief of Staff.
Joint Chiefs of Staff, or the last 4 digits, one of the two.
Okay, yeah, both of them, yeah.
And then the cheeses from France
right.
played there actually twice. They did their first
How did
ever.
they get that second show?
I don't. Well, you know why? Because I think the first show we may have been bad, but the retarded gods were so much worse that nobody remembered us, and so we got that second show, and that was the one where we did a lot of Kiss songs. Chris Cruzan, I think, played either tambourine or something. It was well, you remember there was no reason for us to play at all, and yet somehow we managed to.
It was art itself.
Yeah, and I think that's where I met you. You were probably working the bar, I would imagine, and I probably went over at some point with like a couple 20s and asked if you had change or something. That's how I seem to remember it.
Yeah.
Because I remember I was doing the door with Mike Sheets, so it must have been the Joint Chiefs of Staff. It might have even been that Dow Jones show.
It might have been.
Yeah, because we played that. And that was with us, the Retarded Gods, and I think the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I think.
I third base is such a foggy memory.
It really is.
Lots of smiles, but a foggy memory.
And that's St. Elmo's now, right? Or was St. Elmo's always
it's Izzy and Johnny's now.
Okay, and St. Elmo's was always underneath there, right?
Well, St. Elmo's was always 3 doors down from us.
3 doors down, okay.
Yeah, they were the other... In the building, we had the old La Scala building, and it's now it's now been remodeled, and it's now the Izzy's. But yeah, it was... Because La Scala moved over on Meridian, and we still had the place, I don't even remember the address now. I think it was 230 South Illinois. And, we were hoping that Union Station was going to change everything, and it never did.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember. A lot of people invested a lot of money into those shops, and they just started going one by one.
Oh, yeah. It was a debacle. It was like Keystone at the Crossing when it opened up.
It's like a big nightclub now, isn't it? It's like Cadillac.
Yeah, they've got a dozen nightclubs and a dozen different things going on in there.
Yeah. So, as I remember anyway, third base was one of the only places in town that was fairly punk friendly. Did any of the punk crowd ever sort of accidentally mingle with the steakhouse crowd? And
No. Oh, no. You see, the steakhouse waiters, after their shift, would all come down and hang out with us. We had a very beautiful relationship with St. Elmo's. I mean, it was so beautiful. I mean, they come down. When you're a bar at one end and there's a bar at the other end of a block, you become fast friends, and then you go down to Fonzarelli's across from the Fonzie's place. What was it called? It was across from the old Greyhound station. The first floor was a strip club. The second floor was a red velvet piano bar, and the third floor is where the girls went up for lap dancing.
Wow, they should have had a slide.
Yeah, I bet they did.
And so at third base, that's where you first started promoting bands or bringing bands to town. I don't remember a lot of bands coming from out of town there, though. It was mostly people here in town, right?
Yeah, it was the first original venue where you didn't play covers, so it had its own uniqueness in that. And then we changed the name later to the second floor to Jazzaloft, and we had jazz up there for a while. Mary Mike ran that.
Yeah, I don't remember that at all. But that might have been the time period where I wasn't going out very much. There was a 2 or 3 year time period when I had the key the second time around.
Yeah.
That basically that back room became my second home. I mean, there was a bed back there. We had musical instruments. We had weed. We had beer. And so we could do whatever we want.
Yeah.
And we could play as loud as we want, as late as we want. And there was nobody that would say a word to us.
Yeah.
So that's basically during the week. That's where we spent all of our time. Once I'd locked the door.
And that's when Broad Ripple was 70% vacant.
Oh yeah. There was still. I believe there's Karma was still there. Maybe. You could see ducks walking down the sidewalk. Fairly often.
Broad Ripple was still ducky.
Yeah. It was mostly ducks and hippies back then, but it's not anymore. So anyway, what happened with third base? You lose interest?
No, I sold it out to Danny Cornelius, and I went about another business.
Okay, and was that Carfax?
Yeah, Carfax came after that.
Okay, because that's excuse me, because Carfax is where I really started to see you a lot, because you were coming down the second time around a lot from there because you were just down the street, and you'd come down and hang out and see if Todd was going to say something outrageous or.
I love Todd.
Or yeah, that's right. Now around this point, were you starting to? You weren't booking the patio yet, were you?
No. Oh, no. You know what came before this? The Academy of Arts, where we had GBH on Vermont Street.
All right.
And then came Carfax. Okay, we did I think it was in that order. No. The Academy of Arts came after Carfax.
Yeah, Carfax was fairly early.
Yeah, okay.
And actually, just to clarify, Carfax was not a venue, right? It was
Carfax was a custom leather store. We made custom rubber clothes. We had posters. We had fun, This is back when, studded spiked bracelets were a big thing, and studded spiked jackets. We'd contract work all day long. We made stuff for traveling musicians. Carol Sue Hill had a bunch of outfits made, and she was singing with Tom Petty and what's that guy in the South? John Cougar.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, she was. she was yum.
So okay, at what point did you start working with, like, say, Chubby Wadsworth? Because you guys were booking together for a short time, right?
Oh yeah, we had Never Be Normal. Even hurt thinking about it. That was in 84, 85, 86. We had skits before that.
Skits. I remember that, but where was that at?
That was at where Stone Mug is, whatever it is. Caesars. It went Caesars, Skits, Stone Mug, I think.
Right, that sounds right. Because we had a little history with the Stone Mug part, but I had a little history with either the Skits or the Caesars part. Now, I don't know if you remember this, but we actually got banned from there. And the reason was Ed Ott and the Future were playing there, and they were doing 2 sets, and they wanted us to play between their sets. This was the Cheeses from France. This was the last show we were going to do before, like, Michael, went off to where he was moving to for his job, and everybody was sort of about to move away, and so this was going to be it for a while, and we were just, oh my God, we were so loud and so horrible, and we ended up clearing the place. Like, the place was packed, and by the time we were done, like 2/3 of the people in the place had left, and the bar owners came up to us, and they were really mad at us.
Bill was the bar owner at the time.
Okay.
Bill McAlexander.
Yeah, and he's yelling at us, telling us that we fucked his business, and that we shouldn't be allowed to do this, and we should be ashamed of ourselves and stuff. And then he said, "You are never, ever playing here ever again." But the funny part about it is that my real band was already booked there the next week. So and it was mostly the same guys. Or several of the same guys, and me. He would have recognized me because he talked to me, and so we show up that next week, and he was not happy, but we went ahead and played anyway. Yeah. But from that point on, we never played there again, and I think I only went in there a couple times after that. But I'd say the best show I saw in that place was the Bad Brains. That was your show.
Yeah,
it was.
Oh, yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but at the beginning of the show, they bring HR out, and he's duct taped to a chair, right? You remember they carry him out in a chair, and he's like duct taped to it?
I remember the smell.
Well, that too. But but I remember it took him one song to break out of this duct tape chair thing, and it was awesome. It was really one of the coolest things I'd ever seen. And then
did you see the Amadots show?
No.
When the stage was in the corner,
right?
The Amadots came in with a bunch of colored lights, and they put them on the floor around the band.
Right.
They put Visqueen up from the stage all the way up to the ceiling. They came in with a fog machine, hotboxed this fog machine, and within this environment, started playing, and then the lights started going with the beat.
Right.
And then they started taking a knife and they slashed the Visqueen, so all the smoke was coming out, and then finally the band is being exposed with all these fabulous lights in the background. It was one of the best presentations I saw in that club of a theatrical presentation, and it was so cheap and so easy to do, and everybody just sat around, going, "Oh my God, that is so cool!"
Right, and they didn't last very long, did they, as a band?
I think they lasted a year or two.
For a year or two,
yeah. Well, everybody was a punk band for a year or two.
Yeah, and a lot of times it was right before you were going off to college, or right before you're going off to get married and have a real life or whatever. I know a lot of
life?
That happened to a lot of the folks there in that first wave. So now you kind of got known. Let's kick back just a little bit. The Zero Boys. You were connected with the Zero Boys somewhat. How did that come about?
God, I love them. I had a date on a Friday night, I guess. Saturday night. And they said, let's go see this band at Pizza Castle.
Another early venue, I might add.
Yeah. This was the place where they can play punk bands, but you couldn't dance because it was illegal to dance in a restaurant because they didn't have a entertainment permit.
Right.
And they couldn't have an entertainment permit with a beer on tap and kids. So there was no dancing thing.
It's a lot of red tape.
Yeah, well, it's, those fabulous Indiana state laws. I looked at them, I heard them, I thought they were absolutely incredible. Raw, fresh, just really, I was very impressed. And I did this, the stupid business-minded thing of, guys, how come you're not playing New York and you're playing fucking Indiana Pizza Castle? And I think it was I think it was probably Mayhern, looked at me and said, well, because we don't have a manager. And I said, manager? You need a manager? And somehow it came about that I started hanging with them and started doing business for them. It's also the first time I saw a headbutt. Now, I had never seen a headbutt. And I think it was after this show, or a show similar, right when I was early on with them.
Right.
But Terry, the guitar player, wouldn't carry his drums in and was whining out loud about it. And a young Tufty Clough got about a foot in front of him and said, if you don't go get your drums and quit your whining, or something in that regard. And Terry and all of a sudden, I see Tufty go back and then just come forward very, very, very quickly. And his forehead connected smack with Terry's face. And Terry buckled down on the ground, whining. I was hysterical. I had never seen a headbutt before, and I knew from that time on to always stay at least 3 feet away from Tufty.
And well, he told me that it was you that actually put their album out. He said they ordered it for Bob Richard and he didn't like it or didn't want to put it out.
I heard it. I liked it. Well, no, wait a minute. Well, let's go to the story of how the Zero Boy out. This is good. How did the Zero Boy album come out? Okay. I went up to Chicago on the coldest day in history in 79, 80, somewhere in there.
Right.
I was there 2 days in advance or a day in advance for a Zero Boy show at O'Banion's. There was Husker Du. There was Die Kreutzen. There was Soul Asylum. There was the other big Minneapolis band. Oh, come on. Replacements. Okay. We're all on the same bill. Zero Boys, so it was all the big regional bands. And O'Banion's in Chicago was the old gangsters bar. So this is really, this place had a lot of rich history. The band finally got up there. Everybody's bitching about it. The club had no heat. Okay? It was brilliant. I got my case of beer, and the band got their case of beer. And I met Nancy and Roseanne, two of the most wonderful women in the world. They played in front of 2 or 3 paid customers, and all the other bands would watch the other bands. It was probably one of the greatest nights ever, except the amps froze. Okay, so they were having difficulty warming up the amps. Everybody was curled up in the basement around a space heater that really wasn't doing the job, but it took the numbness off.
Right.
Okay, so this is going on. Back at home, while we're freezing our asses off in Chicago, a pipe in the house burst. Okay, in the bathroom, because we didn't leave the faucets dripping. Too close? Okay. We didn't leave the faucets dripping. And we came home, and there was a waterfall over the staircase. And the crow died. We had a crow living with us. And I started, I got bummed out about the crow, but I started jumping up and down, and I said, oh, my God, we got it. And they go, what are you talking about? And I go, this is how we're going to finance the record. And I go, what? I said, see this accident? This is an act of God. This is how we're going to finance the record. And we fixed the pipe. Well, all right, wait a minute. First we claimed the insurance.
Right.
Then we fixed the pipe. Then we took the insurance money and bought the album. We paid for the pressing down in Cincinnati. So it was an insurance claim on a water pipe, and I had a huge hole in my ceiling I never fixed.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's how the Zero Boy Money came around on the Vicious Circle album, because, you know, you hear it once and you go, oh my God, you know, this is so incredibly groundbreaking. They were the Ramones of Indiana.
Sure.
You know, they distinctly hold that title. It's a
Those
classic.
albums, yeah.
It's a punk classic album now.
Yeah.
You know, it's in the top 100 punk classic albums of the era.
Yeah, easily. You know, and the fact that it's recorded really well, and the songs are really strong. You know, and like Paul said, he said they rehearsed their asses off, and so that when they went in the studio, they could be as tight as possible. And I mean, and let's face it, that drummer, I mean, you know, he's a little loopy.
I love Marky.
I know he's great, but he's a strong propellant on that record.
Oh, and you know, my favorite comment, you know, by him now is, you know, if I knew I would be playing this album again at 60, I would have slowed it down. It's like, yeah, Mark, you got to do the whole album again, and now you're 60.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
And he still can do it. He could still do it like a mofo.
Yeah. So, okay, so we seem to be right around the mid-'80s, right around the time when I purchased my very first new car, that white Toyota van.
The Skunk Mobile.
Yeah. Okay, so for the folks that don't know, I bought a new car, and it was the first new car I've ever had, and I was fairly young.
No, wait. Let's back this up. Why did you buy it? Because you had been using all of ours.
Well, yeah, because, you know, when you're in a band or when you're doing record conventions,
yeah.
I mean, you need something to haul your crap around in, and I didn't have one. So, yeah, I said, okay, I go get my van, and I got it. I love that thing. It was one of those old Toyota vans with the sloped front that kind of made it look like a moon mobile or something. And I remember one day going out and getting in it and thinking, man, it smells kind of funny out here. This is weird. I wonder what the hell's going on. So I'm driving around for a couple of days, and it's getting worse. It's like the whole van really smells bad. Everyone's never. And finally I said, okay, there's something wrong in here. So I went to the back, I lifted up the carpet in the back, and there was a dead skunk in there.
Now, why was that dead skunk in there?
Now, what's the origin of that skunk from your perspective?
I was driving to take my children home to their mother, and all of a sudden we went over a dead skunk in the road, and Jeanette, who was still a baby, was in the seat, in the back seat, you know, the baby seat. And she did the most incredible thing. She goes, "Smells like Daddy."
Huh.
And I just roared, and I roared all the way home. And I dropped the kids off, and I came back, and I saw that skunk, and I said, all right. Now, you had done something earlier, something like a fruit salad joke or something. And that's sort of why, could have been. That's sort of why I donated this skunk. You know, I wrapped it up in a bag, threw it in my van, and drove by your vehicle and saw it. You know, I'll get that. And I threw it in under, I think it was a futon. I think it was under the futon. Or,
It very well could have.
I think it was under the
futon.
futon.
Back there.
And then I didn't hear from you for about 2-3 days, and then I heard from you.
Yeah, I figured it had to have been you. I mean, who else would? I mean, I don't think I'd made a lot of enemies at that point. So, yeah, but you know, but now the flip side of that story is that I kind of got my revenge a little bit later.
Did you ever?
Now, there was this. Well, for a little backstory, there was a guy in town whose since left us. Very sweet guy, very nice. But the poor guy was really, really badly overweight. And by badly overweight, I mean not just big, but
Huge.
But you would notice him if you saw him in public obese. And the poor guy, we kind of figured that he wasn't able to wash everywhere. And because of this, he had an odor that surrounded him like a giant circle that went by about 40 or 50 yards. I mean, literally, if he came in the door of a store that you were working at, you would smell him from the counter.
For 2 days.
It was that strong. There's a video out there of King Diamond signing autographs, and there's a line of people. And as he gets closer to the table, you see those faces on the fans. They're going, "Ooh, mate, ooh, what's that?" You know, as he gets closer. It's funny, but it's also sad. But anyway, this guy used to do stand-up comedy, and so I had the idea. We were doing a show with Exquisite Fashion. Do you remember them?
Oh, yes.
At the Vogue. And, oh, no, wait a minute. I'm sorry. No, it was that. That was it. And so I said, hey, Bill, my van's too small to carry all this equipment. Can we switch vans for a day? And you were as helpful as possible. So, oh, yeah, sure, because, it was your show. You wanted it to go well. So we went down, and it was a hot day in the summer,
it was hot. It was nasty
And we picked up Patrick. We put him in the van. We gave him some food and some cold drinks and stuff. And then we went and parked the van behind the Vogue and said, okay, wait here. Bill will come and get you when they unlock the doors and can let us in. So he sat in your van probably for an hour or two, even after we parked there. And I know when you came out, he was sitting with the back hatch open with his little Casio singing Nightbird. Am I correct?
You are shockingly correct.
Yeah, that was it. And I remember that I won, that your van actually ended up smelling worse than mine.
A year and a half later, you can still smell it in the metal. It was where he leaned back for about an hour. Mm-hmm. We washed this with everything we could, and a year and a half later, you can still scratch and sniff the metal where he sat, and I'm sure if that van is still around,
I can't imagine it, but that van went to hell and back several times.
Oh yeah,
is that the Assmaster van?
That was the Jolt Cola van, which no, that was a Jolt Cola van.
Okay.
I don't think it was an Assmaster van. I think it was a trailer and a car and a station wagon that we were in.
All right.
Or is that the other trip up there? I don't know. It was,
Yeah, I know. It all kind of blurs together. It's been like 30 plus years. So.
Well, the first show we went up in New York when the Zero Boys was at A7. And it was at the corner of A7, across from Leshke's. Great food at Leshke's. It was a small shotgun bar, and it was boys' night out, and they had the Dead Boys, the Zero Boys, the Beastie Boys, and one other boy band. And this was the first time we ever saw Universal Drum Kit. Uh-huh. Where you can bring your snare and cymbals, and Mark looked sort of grateful for that.
Less to carry.
Yeah, less to carry. So everybody looked, that was a grateful thing. It was an absolute incredible night. I mean, it was just an absolute delight. And then then came up the Assmaster. As we were touring around New York, there was what you call a New York street vendor with magazines, and I'm looking at this going, well, hell. And I'm a butt man, I admit it. I like S's. So I pick up one. Now, they're stacked, right?
Right.
They're stacked. So you don't get to see the picture, but I looked at the title, and I grab it, and without looking at the front page, I just saw the title. I open it, and I look, and it was Assmaster. Now, I start flipping through the pages, and I realize that this is not female asses by any stretch of the imagination. And all of a sudden, I look up in the van or whatever the vehicle was, and there's the whole band pissing themselves laughing. Oh, so you like Assmaster, huh?
And you'd already bought it, right? You couldn't return it?
Oh, it's just, we've been Assmaster since then.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit with Paul. Now, it was around this time that me and you actually started a barbecue restaurant that lasted, I think, exactly 5 months, was it?
5-6 months.
5 or 6 months. But, I mean, it was a really good 5 or 6 months.
It was excellent.
It was fun. And there was a lot of good food and a lot of wild game and a lot of good comedy and absolutely no money whatsoever.
Well, that's why we got out of it, because there were sticky fingers between us and the customer.
Yeah, there were things going on that I don't wish to speak ill of the dead, so to speak.
Amen.
But there was bar trickery that we didn't know about. Which, now that we do, if we were ever in that same position again, I think that we would probably be a heck of a lot more successful. Plus, there are certain things that I did, personally, that if I hadn't, like, say, for instance, fuck potatoes, I'll just buy frozen fries, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
that's a big expense.
That's just being young and stupid.
Yeah, we should have just said, fuck. You peel them, I'll cut them, we'll fry them. I mean, there are just little things like that if we were to ever do that again, which we will never, ever do again. But if we were to ever do that again, I mean, I think we both learned lessons that would make the next time around a little better.
I still want to make a pot of chili. I just don't have the extra $300.
Well, that's the thing about your chili, is I was actually going to bring that up. Now, the other thing, around the same time that we had the barbecue restaurant, we made an appearance on the Healthy Home Show with
yes,
with Ron Miller.
With Ron Miller, that was possibly, to this day, that was one of the greatest shows ever produced out of the state of Indiana.
And it was fun to do. I mean, all our friends were there. I mean, as a matter of fact, they told me that was the first time they had ever had a studio audience, because we brought like 2 carloads of people with us. Tom Shover was there. I think Will Sibley was there. Mike Sheets was there. Mark Urschel, I think, was there. And it was just, and do you remember at the beginning of the show, he goes, keep it clean, because he thought for whatever reason that we were going to
That's when I was still wearing a cowboy hat.
You're wearing a cowboy hat, I believe, in the photo that I have.
Yep.
There's Rocky, the security hound. And so I just remember having a lot of fun that night, and I remember Ron being really nice.
He was a doll.
All the production people were really nice.
The keyboard player who came to the window and chatted.
See, Aunt Dorothy?
That's it.
The names are a little shaky for me, because there were so many. Cletus was the organ player, right? Was his name Cletus? I think it was.
I thought. Okay, Dorothy came to the window and Cletus played the organ. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, and then they were always sponsored by J.D. Byrider. Remember, you'd see like 10 J.D. Byrider commercials per half hour.
Yep.
But I remember having fun doing that, and we got to be kind of friendly with Ron. He used to, whenever he would come to town. I believe there for a while, weren't we trying to get him to come to town? We were going to take him to all the tit bars, or something like that, just because
take him out to the city, show him the city.
Yeah, and I think we were like right on the cusp of doing that when you killed him with your chili. Now here, the ironic part is, didn't we refer to your chili on the menu as like Bill's Killer Chili or something like that?
Wait. Badass chili, a killer stew with an attitude.
That's right. Now the thing about Bill's chili is, like you said, it costs like $300 to make in a big pot. But Bill's chili is the best chili ever, and it's not because it's particularly hot or particularly spicy. But what it is it contains every meat known to man that's not gross.
And about, I don't know, between 11 and 14 different kinds of peppers.
Right. And I think, did you put like maybe a bottle of Craig sauce in it?
There was just all sorts of yummy things in there.
Yeah, but I remember your chili. I mean, was awesome, but it was heavy duty. I mean, after you ate it, I mean, you just feel like you ate like a really satisfying brick, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you better have some fiber with it.
Oh well, yeah. Now that we pay attention to things like that, yellow fiber's good.
Yeah, you better, because if you don't, you know, the pain will come later. But yeah, you remember Ron came in. I'm just kidding about you killing him with his chili, by the way. Although that was the rumor there for a while that the week that he came to town to Glendale to give like a cooking demonstration.
Yep.
And we met him there, and we gave him a bucket of your homemade chili that you just made, and he was like, "Oh man, oh great, I love chili," and he had an accident right before that. Remember, he broke his hip.
Okay, yeah,
at a Walmart, I think.
Yeah.
And he was so big that they couldn't get him on an ambulance. They had to roll him onto a pallet and then take him to the ambulance.
Right.
Or they couldn't get him on a stretcher. They had to put him on a pallet, lift the pallet with a fork.
Right, forklift.
And take him to the ambulance, because I guess maybe we haven't mentioned this yet, but Ron was also really
740
something like that.
Yeah.
Apparently, what happened was when he was a kid, I think he said that he had seen his sister drown, and
some kind of trauma.
They were really close, and he said he just started eating. And eating, and he told me that it was not uncommon for him to make a whole lasagna as a snack while he was watching Dave Letterman, and then he got hooked up with Dick Gregory for a while. Dick Gregory tried to help him out,
right,
with that diet thing that he does. I don't remember what it's called, and that was kind of his local claim to fame. I think maybe that's how he got that little cooking show that he got, which was called Your Healthy Home Show. Well, we started watching it because it was fun to watch. He was a good personality. He was very down to earth.
I think it was when he did the white loaf of bread and covered it with mayonnaise.
I was going to say that, but the one that really grabbed us was the one where he took a loaf of bread, he decrusted it, and he cut it sideways into three pieces.
Yeah.
On the bottom one, he put like salami, and then he was cream cheese. Then he put the layer on there, and then he was like tomatoes and stuff, and then he iced that with cream cheese, and then he put another thing on top, iced the whole thing with cream cheese, and then cut it like a cake.
Uh-huh.
And we were just like, holy shit, is he really going to eat that?
Uh-huh.
And then it turned out he did something similar, like every single week he'd make these things that were so loopy and off-center that you couldn't help but just be fascinated by them. And so we said, hey, we got this barbecue thing going. We're a couple of interesting dudes, and we contacted them, and they were like happy as hell to have guests on there. I guess maybe they weren't having a lot of people offering. When they did have guests, it was usually like, this is Fred. He works the meat counter at Kroger. He's our guest today, stuff like that. So I think they were just happy to have a couple of colorful characters on there.
It's still, I mean,
no
one produces shows that good anymore. We have all the technology now, and we lost the art.
Well, now they do it as a parody, or ironically.
Yeah.
But Ron was not ironic at all. Ron was very, very genuine and very sincere.
That was it. Yeah.
And like the weekend we gave him the chili, I think he died on Monday.
Yeah.
Monday or Tuesday. It was like right after.
Yeah.
And we always wondered if maybe he had finished off that
whole
bucket of chili
and been rushed to the
watching
hospital.
TV, and then like had a heart attack. So there for a while there were some conspiracy theories concerning your chili and the death of Ron Miller, the local chef extraordinaire.
Oh my.
Yeah. And then also now after our barbecue thing kind of went left quickly. You started. Oh no, actually, I believe you maybe had already started managing GWAR at that point. Is that correct?
Julie and I started working with GWAR. Yes, Jill Salmon sent me a tape of them or a video, and said these guys are out of Richmond, Virginia. And we traveled back and forth to Richmond, Virginia. Came across some reasonable business agreements, and we started working with them. And we took them to the New Music Seminar. for the first time, or for the second time. They were there the year before, but they didn't break in.
Okay.
You know, nobody knew, and they didn't know how to get the media and the labels there. So we did a second. They came back that year with us. I went in and plugged into all the record labels and everybody and got them all going in. The real dick labels, who we knew weren't going to sign, were just there to screw around.
Right.
We'd say, "Oh yeah, you're going to love them. Go sit in the front row." Okay, so we would set up record exec, these suited, you know, these gentlemen who wore custom designed suits,
right,
who would just come into these showcases for the free booze and, you know, just the schmooze, and you knew they weren't going to. That's the ones you sent up front.
Right.
And early Guar had, you know, all the spooge, blood, squirt. I mean, we spent a half hour at the gas station compressing goo and stuff in those because we needed a compressor to
right.
keep that goo. Need a compressor for the goo flowing. Yeah, weird times. Yeah, we worked with Guar, and my first wife and I, got married in Vegas at Circus while on tour with Guar.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, had fun. It was a fun time.
Are they still a going concern?
They're still, yeah. I still think they are going concern. Yeah, you know.
And also, around this time, actually, this was before you got married.
Yeah.
When the Mentors came to town.
Oh, yes. Arr.
Now, you brought them here twice, is that correct?
Yeah.
And the first time, wasn't it a strip bar or a converted strip bar that they played the first time?
It was over at the Twilight Zone.
Right.
Okay, now the Twilight Zone was an East Side bar. It's a pawn shop now. That ran Southern Rock on a regular basis, I think. And they didn't have any acts, and they said we could bring in a national touring act because they liked the 4F Club song. And they go, ho, this is funny. Yeah, you can bring them. The day was a beautiful day. They got there first thing in the morning, and as soon as I opened the door, El Duce insulted me, and I was like, okay, this is going to be great. Come on in, you know, fuckers, and we started to drink. Well, we had the Mentors at the club, and we had, gotten hold of all the media that we were bringing this filth band in.
Right.
I think it was Channel 13. But the Channel 13 news director just sent out a African-American woman to interview El Duce. I started walking away from the interview, getting as far away from ground zero as soon as I heard El Duce sit down and go, "Well, hi, little mammy. How you doing today? You look awful sweet."
Oh.
And the poor woman's eyes popped wide open, and her jaw dropped. And it didn't get any better from there. The interview was terminated in about 97 seconds. Then she left. Of course, it was never aired.
No.
And I think we had, 20 people, maybe 25 people at the show.
I was there because I took pictures.
Yeah.
And Mike Sheets was there.
Yeah.
Because he videotaped it.
Yeah.
And I remember probably less than 30 people there.
Yeah.
If I remember being able to move freely from side to side to take pictures without bumping into anybody.
Yeah.
So if there were a lot of people there, it's possible that they were behind me in a concentric circle away from the stage so as not to be too close.
Well, yeah. There's, El was. That's when El. See, because they had never traveled west of the Mississippi at that point. I was the first one in America to say, "Hey."
You mean east of the Mississippi?
East of the Mississippi.
Okay.
Hey, I'll fly you out. I mean, I had to call the what was it, the Roxy or the Rivoli X-rated movie theater.
The one that he lived under or lived above or whatever?
Yeah, because
I forget the name of it, but I know what you're talking about.
I had to call there and leave messages for him to communicate that I wanted the band to come out.
Right.
And he thought I would, hey, you're just like, you're El Duce. And it's like, yeah, you're great, So, yeah, it was, they left me for dead at a strip club. Well, they didn't. They were going to let me freeze outside. And then they brought me into the strip club, woke me up, and let me drink more, which is just, thank you guys.
Right.
Yeah, it was fun.
As I remember it, your girlfriend at the time really hated them. And so that when they came to town, the second time, she expressly forbid you to have them stay at your house.
Yeah, that didn't work.
Because she was living there at the time.
That didn't work too well.
Right. What I seem to remember, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you tried to get it so that they could spend the night in the basement if they didn't come out of the basement or a back room or something. It was like they had to stay where they were because your girlfriend at the time was, I believe, sleeping on the first floor.
Yes.
Or in this case, on the couch. And apparently El Duce had really developed a crush on her the first time they had been to town. And I guess he was like kind of creepy to her. This is what I remember you telling me.
Yeah.
And then you said, okay, guys, you can stay at my house, but you have to stay in this room. Do not leave this room. And then you left to go get some food or something for them, to get some food or some booze or whatever. And then you said you came back and El Duce wasn't in the room. And you said that you ran out of the room around the corner and you saw her asleep on the couch and El Duce about 3 feet away from her going like, is that how you remember it?
Yeah. El was hard to keep a leash on.
Yeah, so I don't remember if you said that she actually woke up or not.
I
don't think so. I think you were able to get him out of the room quick enough, but I think she found out the next day.
Yeah, she was not a fan.
Well, I mean, they weren't a ladies' band.
Well, not the ladies we were hanging out with,
right,
that's for sure.
So, now, all this stuff we've been talking about here, now I seem to remember also that back then you were drinking a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And then I remember there was a point where a lot of us were thinking, Bill's drinking a lot. And then you just disappeared. Like out of nowhere, poof, you were gone for like a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And everyone was going, hey, where's Bill? Where's Bill? And then it turns out that you had sort of decided enough was enough.
Well, that goes back to El Duce.
Okay, yeah, and you sort of locked yourself in your house, I think is what you said. And just,
all right, later on in life, 3 or 4 tours later, El ended up in Indianapolis for 10 weeks, 9 weeks. And he lived with me. And this was, hi, let's go out and drink time. So my last bender was a couple months with El. I mean, when I found myself in front of a liquor store at 6:45 in the morning before they opened,
right,
I realized there might be a problem. So El left and I quit drinking, did a 10-day cold turkey on a couch. That was beautiful.
Right, you disappeared there for a short amount of time.
Hit a pause for a second. I got pissed.
So what I was getting at was, and I'm sure you'll see where this is going, is that I remember you telling me that cannabis really helped out a lot as far as you giving up the drink. Like, now, I'm sure this would raise like some red flags from some of the AA folks, because I know a lot of them feel that when you quit one thing, you need to quit everything. But the way you described it was that the use of cannabis actually helped you sort of conquer your thirst for alcohol. I mean, is that correct?
Cannabis has amazingly cured me from every addiction I've ever had, be it alcohol, be it tobacco, be it hard drugs. All of these, I have had the assistance of this blessed plant. I've been studying this plant since 1967, and I like it.
Now, you just brought up that memory too. I remember, you didn't quit smoking at the same time, did you? Because I remember you told me you quit smoking during the congressional hearings.
During I think it was 1992, when the Senate subcommittee hearings on the congressional hearings on the tobacco industry were going on.
Right.
And I heard this doctor stand up, and he goes, "I signed a non-disclosure, and I can't disclose this information, and if I do, I can be sued by the tobacco company." We hybrid addiction. We discovered what it was with alcoholics, drug addicts. We found out the common thread between, food addiction. We found the common thread. We synthesized it, and we sprayed it on tobacco. Okay? Mm-hmm. So this made my head explode. It's like, God damn it, I pick my own addictions. You cannot make me addicted to something because you said so, and I want a bag of that so I can just put a little tip of it on my dick. So I can say, "Ladies, come here." Anyway.
I didn't remember that part of it.
Well, yeah. No, I'm sorry, I believe in life, you pick your own addictions. And I stopped smoking right then and there, but I went out and bought a quarter pound.
Right.
And I rolled up a quarter pound, and I was a mean, nasty person for about 45 days. I was smoking 2.5, 3 packs a day. Back when they were $1, $1.25 a pack.
Right.
So, yeah, I quit. Out of quitting anything, all the addictions in the world, the longest term, most painful is most certainly tobacco.
Right. So you still do occasionally enjoy a cigar.
Yeah, I don't inhale cigars, and I know that the cigars are made with pure leaves. There's not some dipstick poisoning them. This is like when Winston came out and said, "Hi, our tobacco is chemical free," and they sprayed the chemical on the rolling paper.
Oh.
Okay, so they were right. Our tobacco is 100%, and they sprayed it on the paper. Thank you, Winston.
Yeah, well, it's funny because this cannabis you talk about sounds like some sort of a miracle, and yet it's illegal. I mean, somebody should be doing something about this.
Well, I'm sure that there's some bright young youths out there harassing politicians in incorrect ways. Yeah, it's coming around. The whole world's becoming aware that the great 80-year lie is over.
Well, you know what I'm leading into here is there is somebody who's doing something about it, and he's sitting right here. You didn't take the bait.
Oh, me. Yeah, I'm having fun here in the state of Indiana.
Well, let's start from the beginning here.
Okay, where do we start?
Let's start from the seed of the idea.
Which idea?
To have the church.
Okay, you're going straight for the church.
Yes, that's what I'm leading to.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I've been doing normal and all that other stuff. Now, wait a minute. If you want to start with the church.
Well, we can back up and start wherever you like.
Let's, okay. If you're going to look at the church, let's start in Thailand. My one buddy, Rick, looked at me and said, "You've always been a rank amateur," when I told him I was going to go to Holland. And I looked at him and I blinked 3 times and I go, what do you, explain yourself, sir. And he goes, "You need to go to Thailand with me." Okay? Now, I haven't thought about Thailand since The King and I. It just wasn't a word that was in my vocabulary horizon. It just was a new word to my brain. And on a bet, Pat, Rick, and I hopped on a plane and we're in Bangkok a few months later. We did the tourist thing and went into the Temple of the Emerald Buddha in the year 2001 in April on a full moon. And the guys didn't want to go in. They're sitting down saying, nah, you can look at it, yeah. And I went in, okay, let's see what this is all about. I stood in the back, and all of a sudden, the Buddha was, across from me and up at a 45-degree angle on a, podium, on a altar.
Right.
And I went sort of back, and I wanted to appreciate, the beauty of the altar, the incense and everything that's going on in there. And I'm looking, and all of a sudden I shot out of my body, and I'm looking, eye to eye, at the Buddha, and I landed, I don't know how long, and I landed, and I started to cry. And these were just tears of joy. I didn't know what was going on at the time, This is hindsight of me recognizing it in hindsight, and I just came down with tears of joy. And something changed, okay? Something changed right there. Now, I did not realize this at the time, okay? And this is something you do not realize. I left a different person than I walked in. And I wiped away the tears, and I went about my business.
Mm-hmm. Were these guys waiting for you outside? Or
yeah, they were waiting outside. They're shooting the shit. We're just bugging around. I wiped the tears and tried, act macho and go on with life. And over that time, I started to cleanse myself of poisons and toxins and a lot of bad habits. And I started finding the word love in my vocabulary just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. And over a 10-year period, I increasingly used the word love in my daily vocabulary. And in 2010, somebody asked me to marry him because I was always that, loving guy. Yeah. And I got my license to marry people. And once you get your minister's license, you sort of, you have that thing going on, like you won a lottery, you got your lottery card, and it's like, I wonder what would happen if I ever had a church. How would that church be? What would that church be like? So that wandered in my mind for 5 years. And Indiana, being a great agricultural state, at the time, was very, very, very politically fertile. There was a lot of political fertilizer all over our state, with our Vice President Pence currently fertilizing it. And I decided it was motivation and it was time to organize my church and put it together and put it on paper and become an honest-to-God religion. And I did so. And I started the First Church of Cannabis. And it cost me $26 and 3 paragraphs on Facebook. And within 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, there were thousands of people. All of a sudden, we're looking for churches. Right. And we're looking for buildings. We're taking tours of churches. It boom, 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 boom. And here we are today. We have a church. We produce 4 streamed TV shows out of it every week. We've set benchmarks for donations at the clothing shelters. We're a new church, okay, so we don't know benchmarks. And we did a sock drive.
Right.
That was our first thing. We did a sock drive. And we got all the socks, and we threw them in a pickup truck, and we took them over to the place that gets them to the people in the streets.
Right.
And we go, here's our socks, 2,700 pair. And they looked and they go, what? 2,700 pair of brand new socks. Are you kidding? How many churches is this? Just one. What church? First Church of Cannabis. No. Yeah. Why? How many do you usually get? We usually get 300 to 700, and if we get 700, it's usually 2 churches put together. And you just brought us 2,700? Yeah, you can count them. So the people down at the center, just looked at us, and we asked everybody in the city, all the important companies, if they would, help us do this, and they all denied us. Okay, they all denied us, and this one company said, "Yeah, of course we'll take it and give it out." So that worked really well. The following was a blanket and coat drive, and again, we didn't know the benchmarks, and we took a truckload and a half, 36 50-gallon bags of clothing stuffed full to the place, and they said, "Who's this from?" We never get this much, so we got another benchmark on that one. And then we did a food drive, and we gave half of it, I think we gave like 500 pounds to a local food drive, and we sent another 500 pounds out to the Indians, the Dakota Pipeline.
Ah.
So yeah, this is what we've done in the last 20 months at the church. I mean,
yeah, it's been almost 2 years now, right?
It'll be 2 years in June or July 1st.
Yeah. And are your neighbors warming up to you in any way?
We don't have any neighbor issues right now. There's the ones that were protesting us. The city basically came over and looked at them and said, "What you are doing is a hate crime against this church. If you do not want to be prosecuted for this, you have to stop." Because they would come over into the backyard and aim signs of Jesus into our back parking lot and give people little comic books that says,
I love those comic books.
I know, some of those are hysterical.
I've seen a bunch of them.
I love them.
Yeah. I thank them for them. How many you got? But now you have your services on Wednesday nights, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And then Friday nights or comedy nights, right?
Yep. Comedy's one of the funny thing about our religion, but pun intended. And I got this straight out of a professor's mouth who's the head of a religious department. I said, "Can you show me another religion that actually prescribes humor in their doctrine?" And he goes, "Closest I can get is laughing yoga." Okay? So out of the 23,000 religions on this planet,
right,
we're the only ones who nailed this.
Yeah. And you live stream both of them, right?
Well, all right. Live streams start on Monday with the Canna Film Festival. We have a 6-foot talking plant and Granny J that host a film festival at the church. Mm-hmm. On Tuesday we have Canna City Limits, which is where musicians come up and perform. We give them a board recording so they can release an album. So it's a live, right, recorded live at the First Church of Cannabis. That's every Tuesday. Every Wednesday is services. Every Thursday is yoga. Every Friday is comedy. Every Saturday and Sunday we're closed.
Yeah, you gotta take the weekend off.
Well, it's go live your life. Go teach your kids on Saturday and go live your life on Sunday.
So, with bands recording there on Tuesdays, theoretically, this could end up being another venue that you're going to book bands at?
Yeah. Oh, most certainly.
Yeah.
Music makes people feel better.
So you've been able to fold in mostly all of your interest into one package.
Yeah. Most certainly.
Yeah. A lot of people would be jealous to be able to do that.
Add love to your life and see what happens.
Well, all right. Is there anything else you want to add before we check out?
No, I love you. Thank you for doing this with me.
No, but why don't you tell people real quick where they can find these streams if they wish to watch them?
The extremes?
No, the streams.
Oh, the streams.
Yeah,
I'm going to say extreme. I'd say, you know. Where do we watch the streams? Everything is off of our Facebook page, the First Church of Cannabis. We stream off of that page, and we also have, there's a production company that does all our streaming called OTTO Nation, one word. They do all the production work for the church. So they do all the streaming and all that. So either AutoNation or the First Church of Cannabis on Facebook will have streams live every week.
All right, sounds cool. I'm going to stop it. Any last words?
Live, laugh, love, learn, create, grow, teach. I love you, thank you, and goodbye.
All right. That was it. Our third episode with Bill Levin. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I'd like to apologize for some of the sound issues. It seems that occasionally either I got too far from the mic or Bill got too close to the mic, and thus there's going to be a little bit of fluctuation in the sound, and I apologize for that. It's going to take a little practice, so please bear with me. I don't think it should take away from your enjoyment of the show. I might add also there seems to be a strange noise or two occasionally throughout the podcast. I don't know what that is. So we've got 2 more podcasts coming in the next 2 weeks, and then after that we're going to take a break for a week until I get back from my fact-finding trip. I might add for all you potential donators a very expensive fact-finding trip. So don't forget, we've got a donate button on the top of the page of our website, and if you feel so inclined to help me pay for a road burger or a cheap motel, well, by God, please feel free to do so. But if not, I hope you enjoy the stuff anyway. It's always going to be free as far as I'm concerned. I don't want to charge for it, and I'm not going to charge for it. And frankly, who the fuck would buy this shit? So that's the show for this week, and I bid you all a good night.
Down in the wrecking yard, I met my true love.